Hey guys, this is Miss Arlequin, and in today's lesson, we are going to be using our analysis of the characters from Real Cool to write a literary piece on their future lives. Alright, so our learning target today is to be able to use our previous close reading analysis to write a literary extension narrative based on the character's future. So in order to achieve this learning target, we have three criteria for success. We have to be able to understand the characterization of the pool players from the poem. We have to use the characterization in order to predict future actions and emotions of these characters. And we have to be able to use creativity to write a narrative of our chosen character's life. Alright, so our writing task is as follows. Imagine yourself as someone who was in the Golden Shovel in 1959. You're going to compose a fictional text, a narrative form, that demonstrates how these days in the pool hall influenced who you are today, so many years later. You can compose your response in whatever format you think is appropriate for the character. So it can be a diary, it could be a dialogue, a screenplay, a letter. You can do rap lyrics or song lyrics. You can do it in poetry form. You can write just a straight narrative with narration and dialogue, either first person or third person. I'd recommend first person though, since we are trying to write from the perspective of a character. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you want to consider your audience. So who is the character telling the story to? Because who they're telling their story to is going to influence the way that you write the story, the types of details you include, the tone of voice. If you're writing to your mother and you're one of the pool players, you might be writing with an apologetic tone. If you are on trial for some crimes that have been committed, it would probably still be apologetic. But if you are writing to a fellow pool player and just filling them in on how your life has been, and nothing bad has really resulted from all of your time just hanging out, lurking, smoking, drinking, then you would not use an apologetic tone. So, depending on who your audience is, what do you know about this audience? How much do they know about the character's past? Have they heard of the Golden Shovel? So do they even know what that is? Do they know what your character used to do 20 years ago when they were a teenager? And then what is that audience's perspective on the past and the present of the character? So are they, angry at them, disappointed in them? Are they like the same as them? It's another pool player, so they're kind of like, yeah, we're awesome. Alright, you also want to consider your purpose. So why is the character telling the story? Again, are they writing just because they want to reminisce about the good times? Are they writing because they want to apologize? They're filled with remorse? So we know that the character is showing the influence of the days of the Golden Shovel, but what does the character want listeners or readers to think? And what does the character want the audience to do or think as a result of their story, as a result of learning about the character's past at the Golden Shovel? Now, when you're writing, no matter what format, what audience, you should always make sure that in this particular piece, you're using a conversational, friendly, informal tone. This is not the same as writing an essay where you can't use first person. You have to use academic language and very clear transitions and evidence. You want to make it sound as if the character is telling his or her story in a way that shows why the days of the Golden Shovel were either valuable or a waste of time. So this would be an assignment where it would be appropriate to use slang. Alright, so here are some sample scenarios, right? You got to determine who's your character, who's the audience, and what's the purpose. So you might choose for your character to be a Baptist minister, meaning the pool player has, in the 20 years since he stopped going to the Golden Shovel, has learned the error of his ways. He became religious, and he actually became a minister. And he is writing a speech that he's going to deliver to his church congregation. And the purpose of the speech is to use his own childhood story to try to convince members of the church to avoid the evils of gambling, which is what he used to do all the time at the pool hall. You might want to be one of a ancillary character from the poem. Yeah, the poem focuses on the pool players, but obviously they probably had girlfriends that were hanging out with them too, so maybe you want to be one of those girlfriends. And your audience is going to be the 18-year-old son that you had with the pool player from the poem. And so you're going to write maybe a letter or a dialogue. You're the writer, so you're going to write their dialogue. the girlfriend and her son. And in that dialogue, she's speaking to her son as a way to urge him to avoid the mistakes that the parents made. So her mistakes and the father's mistakes. All right, another character, you could be a major rap star. And again, this would be the pool player in 20 years turned into this really famous rap star. He is speaking to his fans, and you're going to write a rap that is meant to entertain listeners with stories of your teenage years drinking and gambling. You can be a social worker. So again, you're a pool player who turned into a social worker. You turn your life around, and you're speaking to a 14-year-old student trying to convince them to stay in school and not make the mistakes that you did. Or maybe you are the pool owner, a bar or pool owner. You're talking to your girlfriend and you're trying to explain why your son should be allowed to sow his wild oats, which basically means like have fun, run wild as you're a teenager. There are a lot of people who think that when you are a teenager, you should be able to have fun while you can. I guess kind of like a YOLO kind of perspective or point of view. All right, so now it's time for some brainstorming. Come up with a character, audience, and purpose for your writing. I highly recommend you make a list of a couple of different characters, audiences, and purposes. Circle the strongest idea that you have that you definitely want to use for your writing. And then you can begin working on your brainstorming chart. Make sure that your brainstorming chart is done before tomorrow's class, because in class tomorrow, we are going to begin writing on the laptops.